Hey everyone, and welcome to Quick Review. Today I'm looking at Swag and Sorcery. I've had this game on my radar for a little while now, largely because it crossed looking really cool with a style of gaming I typically only see in mobile games. This is basically a pixel art idle RPG that doesn't benefit from one of the core features that make idle games playable: turning off your phone. So, Swag and Sorcery is attempting to take this general concept and translate it to a full title that somehow brings the idea of a game playing itself while you, as a user, are forced to keep your eyes on it at all times. And honestly, it didn't do a particularly horrible job of that. You're basically the overseer of a small fashion-centric town, where you send out would-be heroes, aka villagers, to fight enemies, farm resources, and make some progress towards the greater story. There is a story here. Each area has its own little snippets that attempt to explain, in some way, what's going on. There's also a cat. All I can say about it is that the story serves its purpose, which I imagine is to try to explain why there are evil monsters outside the village, and why this town is obsessed with fashion shows. So, when you're not sending your characters out to adventure, you can also have them enter fashion shows. This is probably the differentiating factor for this game. It's in the title, it's in a lot of the promotional material, and it's just generally poorly executed. The idea is that you can dress your characters up in different ways to appeal to different judges. Before a fashion show, you can bribe the judges to find out what they do and don't like. Then, you can dress your characters before entering to try to play to the judges. Conceptually, it's alright. Not my cup of tea, but it is what it's set out to be. You might be wondering, what's the problem then? Well, this game is a grind fest. Let's assume you know exactly what appeals to each judge. Well, you still need to actually get clothing that fits with their preferences. So you can go and craft some gear, hope that it matches up with what you need for the judges, and on top of that, you have to consider the fact that you're also going to need gear to progress through the actual dungeons in the game. And the clothing that you're building to appeal to the judges probably doesn't line up with the optimal gear that you need to kill enemies, which leaves us with this brilliant balancing act where you want to progress through the game's story, but you have to choose to either push fashion aside and forget about half of the game to do it, or pursue your fashion career and focus on that instead, forgetting that there are evil monsters outside. So, for the sake of this review, I threw fashion aside, and I just did my best to progress through the game's story. Let's talk about progression then. You start off being able to send one character off on one quest. As you expand your village and upgrade your buildings, you eventually gain the ability to have two characters on a single quest. Then you have two characters on two quests, and eventually three characters on three quests. However, it's worth noting to get new characters, you have to spend gold. To level up characters, you need to spend gold. To gear up characters, you need to find crafting materials. Once you've crafted gear, you have to hope that RNG likes you, because rolls on item are partially randomized. Oh, a lot of the gear also shares crafting materials, so you'll wind up bleeding for particular resources as well. What's the point? Well, despite the fact that you can eventually run 3 quests in parallel, it's just never going to be practical. For the sake of progression, I would often run a single high-leveled group while throwing 1 or 2 other characters at the earlier levels. Another possible use is to just set up 3 smaller farming squads that run the lowest level areas in the game so that you can make a little bit of gold that you'll need in order to level your characters up. Here's the thing, this game is a grind fest, and I genuinely cannot recommend it. Grinding is fine. I don't hate grinding conceptually. However, for grinding to be generally enjoyable or even tolerable, you need to feel like there's a degree of progress. With Swag and Sorcery, I just felt like I was smashing my head into a wall over and over and over again. Now, it's possible that this review will eventually date itself. I think that there are a lot of minor tweaks that could be made to save Swag and Sorcery. For example, let players automate their expeditions. As it is, when a group finishes an area, I have to manually send them out again. Even if they can just run it over and over again without fear of death, I still have to do it manually. Let them just run it until I tell them to stop. It would make the game feel less grindy. introduce actual tangible rewards for fashion. As it is, I didn't feel like it was worth investing any time into this unique and defining aspect of the game, and maybe just smooth the resource curve out a tiny little bit. There were so many items that seemed to serve no purpose, or that I'd wind up with giant stacks of, and other resources I would just be begging to RNGs us for. Anyways, that's Swag and Sorcery. I feel like as a whole, the game was sort of a joke about cosmetic items in games that don't otherwise have much substance. But in the end, while Swag and Sorcery attempted to make a joke about other games, it lost itself when it came to actually having an enjoyable experience at its core. A few patches in the future, this could be a solid game. Right now, initial release, it's just too much of a grind fest. But hey, maybe you miss OG MapleStory and want something comparably grindy. And don't forget, this is just in my opinion. If you feel like I left something out, disagree, or just want to suggest something for me to review, leave a comment. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and don't forget I'm still running my giveaway, so if you want to win this game or any other game that I've played over the last month, check out the description and feel free to subscribe to find out what other games I'll be reviewing. So check back weekly for more reviews and more free games.
No.